So I thought maybe I'd share this because I haven't found this on YouTube. Got a Vermeer 1250, and I bought it used. When I bought it, the guy I bought it from said that this is the gauge to set up the knives, and so I have this and a set of brand new knives that came with it. That's the condition that knives are in, and I'm going to pull that bed knife and flip it, but from what I can tell, it's badly worn, and this side is still new. There's 4 sides, 2 on this side, 2 on the other, from what I can gather. And I do have the manual to it. It was stored in here, but it got wet. I keep this piece of equipment inside, so the poor manual got wet. So it says adjust the shear bar, fig number 3. So there is a 2 to 3 millimeter gap between the shear bar and the knife. Check this for each of the 4 knives, and then tighten the bolts down to 300 foot-pounds. And I'm assuming that those bolts are these bolts. So I'm going to zip them off and see what we got. Oh, fuck. I was thinking about maybe taking it. Well, it's all good. I guess we'll have to drive it to a gas station. Who's on the brake, or is the boat on the brake? What do you think, Paul? The tool or the boat? Probably the boat. Some loose.
5-gallon cage. That's in a quarter. Not in the tank. It's gotta be a 20-gallon tank.
Yeah, I think 20 or 30.
Alright, so it's between a quarter and a half. Whoa. If that's not gonna work,
Alright, I'm back at it here. The Vermeer 1250, going to replace the cutting edge master cutter. Well, flip it because it's got 4 sides, but our blades are dull. Got a brand new box replacements here. They're sharper than sharp. Pop them in. I think they just go right on. I don't think the adjustment lies there. I think the adjustment lies here, where this kind of scrubs against the blade. The manual that came with this was in a poorly protected pocket in the battery compartment and got soaking wet. So I have the blades. I'm going to flip the cutting edge. You can see, you can really see it there, how badly worn it is. So that gets put through the wringer. I think I'm gonna go right to the new side here because I think it's been flipped once. So I'm gonna go to the other side. We have a lot of hours on this thing, I think. We probably threw 100 trees through it. This is a gauge that is for some method of setting this up. I did try it a couple days ago. I got the Wuhan flu, I think. I was sick and laid out took it apart, and in the middle of working on it, I couldn't even finish working on it. I was just too ill. So I'm gonna get set up and we'll start swapping this first blade out. I got my favorite Harbor Freight toolkit. Saw Derek, Vice Grip Garage, always grabs them while on the road and makes doing this remote work a little bit easier, having everything within reach. Love this set, and I got my green tools. Why not? They work. It's the batteries I got. So I'm gonna start by pulling this hardware off, get rocking and rolling. So swapped it out. No adjustment at the blade. It's just a swap out. It's double nutted. The last person working on it was kind enough to put anti-seize on it. Looks like there's still plenty on it. I just took it off with my Ryobi, so I don't have the torque spec or torque gun with me. So you call that good. I mean, they seem to come off pretty easy with this gun, and they're about this like large lug nuts, and they have these second locking nuts, half nuts. Go on. Call that good. On to the next one. This thing's so large that this one's like in the middle. This one's closer to the inside. It's gotta use manual tools. Look, this one. Got that one. Let's take this one off. Here's the next one. This isn't as bad as the first one. This is more round off. The other one must have like chip tooth. So this side of the cutter tooth has hex head screws, 3/8. So I'm going to use 3/8 hex head on, well, right here will be 1/2 inch impact after breaking them loose. This one is pretty well worn as well. Going on there. It's the third one. So I'm going to start tightening these up. I'm going to hold it with a wrench. I got the flywheel chucked in this blade for a stop for tightening it. I'm going to hold the back of the hardware here and run in the screw. So I got the flywheel chucked in. Got a stop over here off screen. I'm going to run these in with the 3/8 on the front. And then I'll go through and I'll hand tighten them with the breaker bar. 1, 2. Here's the one. I'm gonna chip some wood and we're almost there. Alright, so got all 4 blades switched out. And now I gotta work on, it's called the bed knife, I remembered, which is the surface that these teeth operate within the chipper housing here. You can see the tooth there. So they meet in there and they have a clearance, and I can't remember what that clearance is, but all right, so before I even start thinking about the gap, I gotta think about how to even get this thing back into its location. It's in the flywheel housing. I guess I could try to go behind the feeder rollers, but this seems to be the only access for it. So I'm gonna try and grab it with this little pick. And then, there we go. The funny thing is, when I started taking this thing apart, it seemed like my feeler edge, the dimension was matched up with this, but that doesn't seem correct because, you know, I guess the location of the bed knives could change after sharpening, after this bed knife wearing. Seems like to make variable, especially since the operator's manual calls for a spacing between the flywheel knife and this bed knife. So I'm pretty sure if I get that, only get this in place, which I'm doing now. Get this in place, and then I'll look at the manual, I'll pull that up, and we'll see where we're at. These things, I suppose, have 300 pounds on them. And the way that it felt, you know, I use that long breaker that I have, plus a pipe on it, and I thought it would break everything, but it came loose. So, read the manual out. Alright, so I'm working on the shear bar, and the manual says that there should be a 2 to 3 millimeter gap between the shear bar and the knife. And check this for each of the 4 knives. So I was told that this tool dimensionally does that. So I don't know if that little itty bitty edge right there. Alright, so the manual on this thing says 2 to 3 millimeters. This is a 2.5 millimeter hex wrench. So it should be 2.5 millimeters thick. We have 20% left on the battery, but it was dead. So there's a 2.5 millimeter hex key, 2.5 millimeters thick. Way down there where I can't reach. We'll try to establish 2.5 millimeter gap. I don't know if you can see that. Right now I have this Allen key between the bed knife and the actual knife down there. So I think I'll set it up that way. So I'm getting ready to tighten this thing up. So what I did here was I got the middle bolt snug enough that's securing the bed knife here, like the placement of the bed knife. So this bolt's pretty, it's not loose, but it's pretty tight. And I've been making minute adjustments using the end of this wrench and prying on it, and then using this hex key as my feeler gauge. Now, as I've been going backwards with it against the bed knife, and the way I've been using this as a feeler gauge is, you can see this cutter knife right here. Well, you stick the hex key in there and you go down against the bed knife. If it's smaller than 2.5 millimeters, it won't pass through. So it's like a no-go. So I got to that point and had to push it back a little bit, and I evened it up, and then I got to the point where, you know, you get it in there and you give it the little wiggle and you don't feel it wiggle, but when you slide it, you know, it's a wood chipper. It's not perfect, but I want it to be efficient and set the way it should be set. Now here is how it's looking for me. So I'll show you get a good view of this. There it goes. So there's the knife going, the cutting knife going past the bed knife. I'm just gonna get this shot. There's the knife. There's the bed knife. Just 2.5 millimeters. I mean, it's tight. It looks even across. So these have to be torqued down to 300 foot-pounds. Still have a torque wrench. Took a, you know, I'll take the long breaker bar and put all my 200-something pounds on. I guess it's a 30-inch bar, and that should make it so they don't loosen up again. I'm going to keep an eye on them And probably after a couple hours of running, I'll make sure that the bolts aren't backing out on that, just to be safe. But let's get these torqued up, let's get it slammed back together, and let's make some chips. All right, let's test this bad girl out. All reliable. Let's watch her fire.